I would request everybody to please settle down. We are about to begin with the session. An exuberant afternoon to one and all present here. As the day unfolds, we now arrive at a session that gently asks us to slow down, to listen not to just each other, but to the land, the forests, and the countless non-human lives that share this planet with us. Welcome back, okay? So now this session is titled Life with Wildlife. This is not merely a discussion. It's a conversation about coexistence, about how humans and wildlife meet, clash, adapt, and survive together in this world where boundaries are shrinking and responsibility is growing. To begin with this very, very important session, I warmly invite our speakers onto the stage, Dr. M.K. Ranjitson, Mr. Abhilash Khandegar, and Mr. Vinay Varman. Can we please welcome them on the stage with a huge round of applause? Dr. M.K. Ranjitson is a legendary figure in the Indian wildlife conversation, an administrator, author, and a visionary whose work has shaped the nation's environmental framework. A 1961 batch IAS officer, he served as the Secretary for Forests and Tourism, Madhya Pradesh, the Director of Wildlife Preservation, the Government of India. He was the principal architect in the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, played a vital role in creating numerous wildlife sanctuaries, and served globally as the chairman of Wildlife Trust in India, regional advisor to UNEP Asia Pacific, with WWF Tiger Conservation Program and the National Forest Commission, an acclaimed author of the Indian Black Buck, Indian Wildlife, and the Beyond the Tiger. He has also laid groundwork for the reintroduction of the cheetah in India and was honored with Lifetime Achievement Award for Wildlife Conservation in 2014. A huge round of applause for Sir. Joining him is Mr. Abhilash Khandegar ji, a veteran journalist with nearly 4 decades of experience across print and electronic media. Beginning his career with the Free Press Journal, he went on to lead Hindustan Times in Bhopal and later served as the editor and state editorial head of Dainik Bhaskar in MP and Maharashtra. A widely traveled writer, he has authored 5 books, 2 on politics and history, and 3 on birds, reflecting his deep engagement with nature and conservation. He is the co-founder of the Nature Volunteers and served at several government committees, anchored the popular environmental program and on Astitva on Lok Sabha TV, and is the co-director of the Bhopal Literature and Art Festival. We welcome you, sir, with a huge round of applause. And guiding this conversation with us is Mr. Vinay Varman, a senior officer of the Indian Forest Service, whose career represents conservation at the front line. Trained to handle complex wildlife emergencies, he has worked extensively in the wildlife protection, habitat management, and human-animal conflict. His work reflects a rare blend of field experience, institution building, and public engagement. Together, these 3 voices will bring policy, practice, storytelling, and lived experience to a conversation that asks a vital question: what does it truly mean to live with wildlife, not above it and not apart from it? Ladies and gentlemen, can we give our panelists a huge round of applause as they begin with this wonderful conversation? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So as you have spoken about Ranjit Singh Saab, we hold him in high esteem, and he has done immense amount of contribution to not only the country, also for Madhya Pradesh. And he has been known to be a tiger man, a black buck man, and now a cheetah man. So I am requesting Mr. Toria, who has brought some cheetah lapel pins he has designed, to present it to Ranjit Singh Saab, and then we take this session forward. He's a wildlife enthusiast, sir, and he has done something for the sake of wildlife. Also to Vinay Varman ji, sir. If cheetahs have come into Madhya Pradesh, thanks to Shri Ranjit Singh Saab's solitary fight, not only in Supreme Court but elsewhere also, So we must give a big hand to him because cheetahs had gone extinct from Madhya Pradesh and they were brought in 2022 thanks to Ranjit Singh Saab, and we are very proud that he is participating in the Bhopal Literature Festival this year. His jacket is already studded with number of other species. So I would like to know about them also. I'll do it. So the idea of holding this session is to generate awareness among people for wildlife and also to understand the history as also the challenges that lay behind the whole efforts that are being. Thank you, Mr. Toria. Thank you. So Betty, sir. So I give this mic to Mr. Vinay Varman, who has been a very senior forest officer. He has brought that wonderful book, A Life with Wildlife, of Mr. Ranjit Singh Saab. Ranjit Singh Saab was also the Bhopal Divisional Commissioner when the Bhopal gas tragedy happened in 1984. And there is also a chapter other than the wildlife on how he dealt with that massive industrial disaster of 1984. So welcome, Dr. Singh, and over to Vinay ji.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Abhilash. We are truly blessed, all of us here, to have with us Sri Ranjit Singh Saab, and who has been a prominent and a force to save the wildlife in our country. He has got extensive experience and everything is already well told. Those of you who are interested, when you go down to the bookstore, do pick up the book, A Life with Wildlife. It's available, the paperback is available here. Once you read it, you will understand the depth that Saab has and the experience which he has laid down in this book. There are complex issues in wildlife conservation. Wildlife is a topic of much debate because people have different views on it. Some view it as good food, some view it as entertainment, and we need wildlife for our own survival. Very few recognize that point. How to go forward is what I think is the main issue now, and there's no better person than Ranjit Singh Saab to give us a brief synopsis of his book and the views that lay down on the future of India's wildlife. Sir.
Thank you very much, both my colleagues, Mr. Abhilash Ji Khandekar and Mr. Verma, for very kind words, and I'm deeply honored and very, very grateful for this opportunity to come back to my Karma Bhumi, which is Madhya Pradesh, because I spent most of my career here. Sorry. And I thank you all for coming. Where would you like me to start?
So I would like you to start, how did the 1972 Wildlife Preservation Act that you scripted was brought into force, and that legal instrument is today, we believe, is saving the wildlife. But what is the issue? It is more than 50 years now that you had written that act. It was passed by Parliament and gave some cover to the wildlife in the country. So some background about that, sir.
Right. Before I begin, I would like to explain what wildlife means and what it should be in the real sense of the term, and what it has unfortunately come about to be. Wildlife today to most people means seeing tigers. That's counterproductive. Wildlife is defined in the Wildlife Protection Act as all animate and inanimate things found wild in nature, which includes not just animals, insects, birds, reptiles, but trees, grass, everything found wild in nature, and it includes the habitat where the animal is. It includes the water, the ecosystem. It includes wilderness. Wilderness, which is exemplified and honored in our Purans and even in the Vedas as Aranya. wilderness, not just the blessed tiger. Now, and that is what is lacking. This perception, this acceptance. And India is an extremely paradoxical country. Of all the countries that I've had experience with, developing nations, India is the easiest country in the world to protect nature because most of us are vegetarian. We have respect for life. And we are, by and large, very law-abiding people. But the main thing is we do not eat meat like Africa, where everyone is an exploiter of animals and birds, and they eat everything. But here, we have this empathy, but we are passive people. हम नहीं मारेंगे, हम नहीं खाएंगे, दूसरा करे तो हम क्या करें? कर्म है. There are only very few communities who fight for it. Vishnu is one, and there are others. And this awareness must come about, as has come about in Aravalli. That ecosystems, it's not animals. And the other thing about wildlife is, and he rightly mentioned it, that ye hai kya? Is it recreation or what? Wilderness, and I mean wildlife, as anything, is a national natural heritage, which is no less important than any cultural or archaeological or religious heritage of this country. And I'm proud of all of them. But this cannot be replicated. You can perhaps, मैं किसी को बुरा नहीं मानना चाहिए, you can create another Ram Mandir. You cannot create a evergreen forest again. If a park is finished, it's finished. And we are finishing a park. We are finishing our last events. I regard parks as sacrosanct. Because when I set up that more important than the Wildlife Act, and I'll come to it, Abhilash has asked me, are the protected areas. More than 50 years ago, I realized that the most important thing to preserve the national natural heritage is to establish as many national parks and sanctuaries as possible. As Forest Secretary of Madhya Pradesh, in 2.5 years, I established 9 new national parks, 14 new sanctuaries in Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh. I'm sorry to say, 3 of them have been denotified entirely, and others have been reduced. How many parks and sanctuaries have been added in the 25 years of this century? Just ask, and then talk about tigers. Now, coming to
So I wanted to go into the history
and the history
of the 1972 Act,
Yeah.
whether it was because of the
I will come to
IUCN
that. I just
conference.
give that background, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I digress, but they should know the backdrop, that what is wildlife and what it implies. And I'll just say this. The habitat is more important than the animal. You can have the habitat without the animal. You cannot have a wild animal without the habitat. You can only go and see them in the so-called safari parks, which are zoos. And that is no conservation. The act itself, very briefly, we had the forest was a state subject under the Constitution then. When the Constitution was made in 1950, it was under the state list, forest and wildlife. The only act which was the Indian Forest Act, which was made in 1927, which governed shikar, and shikar too in forest areas. It gave blocks. It said, this is the open season for hunting, this is the open season for this animal, that animal, this is the minimum number, a minimum size it could be shot or killed, and so many numbers. And so many blocks were given out for shikar. It was the era of hunting, of the British, of the princes and the rest. So there was no protection of wildlife outside. There was nothing about taxidermy trade. And our tiger skins and leopard skins were being sold everywhere. Snow leopard skins, tiger nails were being exported outside. Chartreuse shawls were made from our chartreuse. And everything was for sale. So, and the decline had been horrendous after the protection of the British and of the princes went, and we lost. We say that the tiger population of the country came down from 40 plus thousand to 2,000 when we counted it for the first time, and I was in charge of that counting in 1980. 86, 87. But few people realize the amount of loss we have suffered. The black buck, on which I did my PhD, in the province of Saurashtra alone, not even in Gujarat, the population declined from over 80,000 to less than 2,000 in 10 years. Just killed. And that was what was happening. And so Mrs. Gandhi, I remember on the 20th of September, called a meeting, since we want to go into the history of it. In 1972, I had gone off as Deputy Secretary to the Ministry of Agriculture, which had a minuscule part of forest. One Deputy Secretary who was already there, so I was doing machinery, useless tractors from Bulgaria, RSO-9 tractors which were not working, but they were being bought in rubles. Anyway, so, but I had shown my wildlife films to her because her secretary happened to be my batchmate in the IAS. And he had said that this chap has got very good wildlife films. So I had been asked and I went to show the family wildlife films. So when this meeting was called, I was also called. But there were others. Kailash Sanchla was there, and the IAS, Dr. Karan Singh. And I was the junior most. I sat in one corner. And then they all said, we are trying to do our best, we can do this, we can't do this because it's state subject. Mrs. Gandhi was getting restive. So my colleague said, Tum bolo. I said, Madam, it's not so hopeless. So she turned down and said, what? I said, Madam, under Article 248 of the Constitution, 250 and 251, a state subject can be legislated upon by the central government, provided two states to begin with empower the government of India to legislate on a state subject. It will then apply to those states and the union territories and any other subsequent states who adopt that thing by a resolution in their respective legislation. Dr. Karan Singh turned around and said, which state will give us those powers? So she turns around and fixes him with her glass and says, I will write to the states, and she did.
That you mean to say that Prime Minister wrote to some of the Chief Ministers of the states?
All the Chief Ministers. I have a copy of that letter.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there were no photocopying machines then, so there were cyclostyle copies. Anyway, so she wrote to the states, and would you believe it? 18 states, including one non-Congress ruled state, empowered the government of India to legislate on a state subject. On a state subject, we were before I had finished drafting it. वो तो ऊपर से आया था. And so he said, okay, that's a good idea. Anything else? So I said, Madam, we are only preaching to the states. We are not giving them any funds. We need to give them capital expenditure under a centrally sponsored or central sector scheme. And they do the recurring cost, the states. We are thereby going to help them. The states are starved for funds to protect now parks and sanctuaries. They create the posts, and we will pay for all the infrastructure, everything else, jeeps, and it will give us a leverage also. Very good idea. Please take it up with the Planning Commission. I go back after the meeting. 4 days later, a memo comes from signed Indira Gandhi to Fakhruddin Saab, who was my minister. Ranjit Singh should be put in charge of the wildlife of India. Finished.
Very good.
So, and then when I went to to the law department to draft it was the month of May or April.
April 72?
72.
Okay.
I went to the law. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I went to the law department. They were very good. They received me, and then they put me in charge with a deputy secretary to draft it. A very good man. He helped me, and he said we went to his room. He said, "Look, I'm very busy with the budget session, and I'm busy right up till the monsoon session. Come after the monsoon session, we'll draft." I go back to my office and dictate a small note. The PM had directed that I will go to do a Wildlife Act. And I was very well thinking, but I was told that they are too busy to start this work with me, and that I can only start this operation, this work, after the monsoon session in September. And Nietzsche, the bottom line. The PM may wish to see. ये मेरा bottom line होता था. The PM may wish to see. वो मेरा IG ने धोबी मार्क लगाया, TP Singh ICS ने धोबी मार्क, फखरुद्दीन साहब. The third day I get a letter from the same deputy secretary, कल आ सकते हो.
This is how the
ये आता है ऊपर से, और नहीं करना है तो भी ऊपर से आता है. अब मेरे को ज़्यादा मत बोला हो.
So Vinay ji.
So anyway, and we drafted, but there is one thing there. There are a number of things. I wanted it, the Wildlife Conservation Act. And I wanted wildlife as one subject, one word. That's the word.
One word.
वो भाष्य मेरे को कहे रंजीत सिंह. The Constitution says preservation of wild and life separately. The act will be preservation of wildlife. या तुम जाके कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बदल के आओ. मैंने कहा नहीं, बट तुम जो कहोगे वो डाल देंगे. मैंने कहा तो हो गया, तो हमारा काम हो जाएगा, तुम्हारा नाम मेरा काम हो जाएगा, चलो. And he put everything inside. But it is that way. But there is one thing, and then I got only one state, Maharashtra, with the Bombay Natural Society, had got a good act. I took that into advantage. I got acts from all over the world, especially those that had been ruled by the British, because that was a different thing. The Commonwealth countries, and New Zealand, Australia, America, everywhere I could get hands on. And the act of the new act at that time of Kenya was very useful. So I borrowed from a lot and then fitted it for Indian condition, and it worked. And it was passed within 6 months. And when it was to be introduced, I got a message to say that the PM wishes to see you. I said, what about? He said the members of the tribal department are very much against this. It curtails the tribal rights of hunting. So I trooped into her room, but I found out why she had called me. She looks up and says, the tribal MPs are very angry with your act. I said, what about, madam? I knew what it was. He says, this about act of hunting. And then I started off, because Parad hai, this burning of the forest. And I said, they're indigenous people. If they do that, the princes also will demand that they will have their rights under the constitution. So you fix up, you asked my secretary to call a meeting. I said, madam, it is being introduced in the Rajya Sabha this evening. Yes. I said, madam, I hope it will be passed in this session and not referred to as elected. She looks up and said, of course it shall be passed in this session. And it was
passed.
I should talk to Doomsday तो ये था, because of that that support or that ये हो पाया. And lastly, one good thing which came out of the emergency, and I had gone away to United Nations. She remembered this thing, and one of the good things that came out of the emergency was that forest and wildlife became a concurrent subject.
Concurrent subject, okay. It came out of the state's list.
Sir, with this historical perspective, which even I did not know that Sir has put in so much of effort, and whatever fruits we enjoyed are because largely due to this efforts. But sir, coming down now to the present situation in the country now, from the history, let's come down. Now, in your book, you have, there were 2-3 points which I would like you to clarify, sir. One of them is that India, the Wildlife Protection Act, although I think initially it allowed some blocks hunting, but we have now gone in like total ban on hunting. And looking into the enthusiasm, like some of our states and of course princely states at the past, and then it's continuing. But the basic question is ki, how can we preserve wildlife without the involvement of hunting? My first question is that, sir. And if hunting is to be allowed, there are certain, even in your book you have stated that we in India have a very resilient habitat. Habitat, of course, has to be preserved. So kindly enlighten us at the future, give us a direction to us all. What would be the direction? Because these are two totally opposite viewpoints.
As far as hunting is concerned, I could not. You see, there was a very strong lobby for hunting. Even after the act was passed, hunting and fishing lobby kept on hammering away. So we kept, I kept a provision for hunting in case, and there was also for vermin, in case certain amount of animals. You see, the Nilgiri Thar was spread all over from Karnataka all the way down to the end of the Western Ghat in Kerala. So the largest population was protected by a group of tea planters, the KDHPs, and they had, out of the total world population at that time, which was about 12 to 1400 animals, 8 to 900 were in their hunting area, the private area. They used to shoot 6 a year on a lottery. But because of those 6, they were saving 6 to 800. I think that was a good bargain. They were doing it and so we kept it as a special permit animal there. And there was this other hunting hobby which was there. And so that was one part of it. And KDHP was then nationalized. I mean, that tea estate was nationalized by Kerala. And they wanted to give it away to landless people because there's a land hunger there. And it's very, very high that time. And there's hardly any topsoil. And it was one of the better things I've done is that I was able to persuade or force the government. And there's another story related to how Eraviculam National Park came about. It came about on 36 wagons of rice. The the food minister was also the forest minister of Kerala. A man, Baby John, who was only 6 feet 4 inches tall, but Baby John. He was a communist. And I went 3 times with the chief. I said, for God's sake, usko bana do park. He says, how I made a promise. Then he came to the food ministry, agriculture. And the minister called me. He said, do you have any work of this man? He's coming to ask for rice. Rice. Because Kerala is short of rice. And I have to give him, he wants rice. I said, I have a lot to ask him. And then, of course, Mrs. Gandhi has also written to the Chief Minister, but ये बना नहीं रहा National Park ये वो. I had asked Mrs. Gandhi to also write. उनका नाम was magic in those days. अब जो भी. So when Baby John saw me, he smiled. He knew what to do. 40 gallons of 40 wagons of rice. It was settled for 36. 18 to be given first. They declare it a national park. Then the next 18.
That was the condition used.
That's how Ernakulam
That was how it came about.
That's the
चमत्कार बिना नमस्कार नहीं है इस देश में.
Ernakulam National Park is now the
Yeah,
has a lot
so
of
you see,
Nilgiritha.
that was the, no. So hunting was there and then later on I stopped it. But that element was there for hunting. And so that transition had to take place. And there were so many of the old school who said, why are you keeping wild dogs and wolves in Schedule 1? They should be vermin. वो पुराना शिकार का कि they are predators as human beings and they are killing animals which we want, so they should be all destroyed. Arey Baba, they are rare. But that concept was different.
So coming back to from Kerala to Madhya Pradesh, we are now, sir, finding he is talking about hunting and issues related to wildlife conservation. We have got new guests into Madhya Pradesh for the last couple of years. We both went to Bandhavgarh for 50 years of Bandhavgarh. Now the Bandhavgarh is now a great habitat for wild elephants. And they are coming all from Odisha and Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. And I don't know whether I would like to ask you during your service time, did we have elephants in Madhya Pradesh? Elephants in Madhya Pradesh? Now they are in big number in that area. Dindori and Anupnagar and Anupur and Shahdol and Bandhavgarh, everywhere there are a lot of elephants and people are complaining.
They used to come right up to Chilpi Ghat in Mandla. When I was collector Mandla, I read the old records. You know, all the collectors used to write when they leave, they note for the successor. And I went through all the old records of the Britishers who had been there, including my own mama, who was an ICS officer. So and
Your mama was also Mandla collector?
yes, collector.
And you also became Mandla collector and you were inspired by it.
I decided on the banks of the Narmada that you see, I was not taken to Kana on New Year's Day of 1940.
Until you were only 6-year-olds.
I was 6 years old. So I banged my head against that wall and said, I will become ICS officer, I'll become collector of Mandla, and when my parents come here as my guests, I will not take them to Kana. Everything happened except that I took them to Kana.
Very good. You are kind enough that way.
So, and that's the only posting I asked for.
Yeah, yeah.
After Dhar, they said, "Tum badi jala le lo." हमने कहा सर मंडला दे दो. So they put me there. Tikku Saab, who was then they said secretary. But anyway, they used to come right up to Chilpi Ghat is just Kavarda ke upar.
Yeah.
And they used to, there were records there up to the thing. So all that Bilaspur forest was elephant country, but this was up to 1880s, 1890s. So they hadn't come for a long time, 100 years.
100 years. Vinayji?
They started again coming back in 1990.
From Chebas.
90, yeah, mostly from Bihar, sir.
Yeah, well,
And we had a very tough problem. I was the DFO there.
Jharkhand actually.
Yes, Jharkhand. Now Jharkhand. Sir. Yes. And I was the DFO there in North Sarguja. And we had these elephants which were coming in. Initially, the local villagers welcomed them and they would give them food, maua. And once they started liking it, they refused to leave. And once you stop feeding them, then they break your house. And I remember, sir, in 91, I had 62 human kills in my division. Practically, I was chasing them, and the government, in its great sense, ordered me to stop them. And I was even authorized to kill, but I did not kill any elephant. But I did drive them back to Bihar, and the technique I used, we'll discuss some other
So
way.
for the sake of the benefit of audience, I would like to say that Mr. Vinay Varman is also a very well trained hunter, and a couple of years ago there was a tigress in Amravati Nagpur area called Avni, and Mr. Nitin Gadkari was very upset that a lot of people were complaining about her manhunting skills, and Maharashtra government had written to Madhya Pradesh to send Mr. Varman to kill that tigress, of course.
Basically, Ranjit Singh Saab. I still remember, sir, he called
So
me.
what is the story, sir?
That's okay. But we'll talk about this life with wildlife now. These are the things which have come up. But basically, sir, my question is ki India is a poor country and the villagers do not have protein. So how can we link protein with conservation of wildlife, sir? Is there a way out here in India for doing that? Looking at your point that we have a very good habitat and the habitat has a resilience because we have a lot of sunlight, tropical country. So can we think of some way that there is instead of a life with wildlife, there should not be a conflict with wildlife. What I am facing is, what I have seen is my service and I've had to kill a lot, only man-eaters, tigers, panthers and all that. But these situations we control because we were in Madhya Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh is a very sensitive state. We take cognizance, we immediately solve the problem. But sir, instead of this conflict with wildlife, do you suggest a way that we can really live in happiness, in cohesion with wildlife?
Theoretically, very correct. You raised a very fundamental point which I've toyed over and over again in the past, and I'm glad you raised it. Scientifically, technically, managing part hunting and utilization of, like in Africa, they cull certain elephants and they give the meat to the locals. Something like that. Even why should nilgai be wasted? They can be either brought in or fed at least to the Muslim population. So recycling or utilization of the surplus is a very, very sound and a practical solution. But after cogitating for a long time, we went in. You see, the basic thing is management in India. In India, there is no halfway house. Either you stop it or you open it. Because the moment you open it, there is no control कि 2 मारोगे या 10. Yes, it is a repeated story. If you go in the Idukki area, in that entire area, all of it is reserve forest. The only forest which survives is Periyar. Why? Because there is no felling there. There is no grazing there, and therefore no fire, nothing. Everything is protected. And outside is reserve forest, सब encroach करके cardamom plantation करके दबा दिया. I can go on and on over this thing of part utilization thing. In the case of Bharatpur, the one of the suggestions of the Bombay Naturalist Society was that we should allow part grazing because that would fertilize the soil and would provide more aquatic plants for the birds, including the Siberian cranes which used to come. And that उसमें allow करो, so I asked the Chief Wildlife Warden कि आप इसमें अभी 10-20 हज़ार नहीं 200 भैंसों को आने दे के हाथ जोड़ दिए कि साहब 200 का यहाँ 2000 हो जाएगा, नेता लोग मेरे पीछे पड़ जाएंगे, आप या तो पूरा खोलो या पूरा बंद करो. In India there is no halfway house, and therefore, and we went from one extreme of a hunting nation to a totally closed nation. Because to open the proverbial Pandora's box in this country was dangerous. I'm being very frank about it. And this is why we kept the lid closed. तो भी चोरी होती है.
सर, अब सेशन ख़त्म करने के पहले मैंने चीतास के बारे में आपसे जानना चाहूँगा कि चीता के लिए आपने काफ़ी प्रयास किए थे और 2022 में फाइनली अफ्रीका से और नामीबिया से चीता आ गए. अब मंदसौर गांधी सागर में भी ले जा रहे हैं, तो उसके लिए आप सुप्रीम कोर्ट तक आपने लड़ाई लड़ी और द ट्रांसलोकेशन ऑफ चीतास फ्रॉम द कंट्री तो ब्रीफली हमको थोड़ा सा चीता के बारे में बताइए कि मध्य प्रदेश इज नाउ वेयर आई मीन वी आर टोल्ड दैट द लास्ट चीता वाज किल्ड इन मध्य प्रदेश and now from 2022 onwards we are having number and the cheetah project appears to be going towards success. So your observations.
The cheetah I brought was not Madhya Pradesh, for India.
Yeah, of course. I
would
stand
like
corrected.
to-
It's
to
for
correct
India.
you there. They came to think not because the last cheetah was killed in Chhattisgarh.
Now
In now Chhattisgarh. at that time.
when it was killed, it was Madhya Pradesh.
Ramgarh in
Sarguja.
no, not in Sarguja.
Korea.
Korea. Sarguja. But after that, they were also found there. You see, it's very interesting. The cheetah had no protection outside, and the rest of the area was open. There was no in the fields and in the grasslands. And the grassland species of all, whether it's the bustard or the cheetah or the floricans, anything of grassland, they've been the most hammered. If you look at the Wildlife Protection Act, the most endangered and threatened ones are the grassland-specific species of birds and animals, because we just have massacred our grasslands, and they are the most productive ecosystem. We don't have a grassland policy in this country. We have a forest policy, and we need a grassland policy more than any other country of the world, because we have the largest livestock population in the world, and they are all free grazing, and there is no such thing as free lunch in ecology in nature. The country is paying the price. But coming to the cheetah, the idea, you see, we carried out a survey. The Supreme Court shot it down and said lion aana chahiye. I set up, as Forest Secretary, I set up Kunu National Park, but it was for the lion at that time. But ये तो गुजरात गवर्नमेंट तो मोनोपोली है, लायन बाहर जा ही नहीं सकता. मेरे को गद्दार कहा है, मेरे को I've been asked, are you Gujarati sir? But you were talking about taking lions from Gujarat. I said, I'm talking about India यार.
क्या बात है?
तो क्या आप and when this came about, Tushar Mehta, and I'm saying so openly, you see, this thing, so when this order came about, the lion lobby got in, so the court ordered that the lion shall come and the cheetah will not come to Kunu. The Kunu was at that time the best place. Wildlife Institute had certified it. So there was a estoppel by the court in 2000. So I went to the government, and they made me a person in charge of the thing, and we drafted a review petition. And the review petition gave an order in 2019 because the Chief Justice, Justice Bobde, and the government would not come to attend those things. I had a lawyer, the son of a Madhya Pradesh forest officer, Prabir Sen and Binu Sen's son, Prashant Sen. He happened to be pro bono. So I said, Prashant, just go and say that the Chief Justice wanted to hear me. Ranjit Singh का नाम लिया था. तो जरा कह तो दो कि sir, uncle, I can't have a brief. The government has not briefed me. I can't talk on behalf. And the Attorney General has not come. They want postponement. They don't want this case to be heard at all. So, but I said, itna to keh do ke Sir Ranjit Singh is here. So he said, is he here, Dr. Ranjit Singh? Yes. So he said, I want to hear him. So I was called in the front. And when I went to, I think this is not in the book.
After the book.
बाद का, since you ask. So वहाँ बुलाया, and he looks up and said, my white hair, and said, sir, will you depose? I said, sir, it will be an honor. I was serving his position, he was serving my white hair. So, anyway, so, मैंने तो धारा प्रवाह चला ये था वो था, and it's very good. And why shouldn't, you see, the cheetah can come, get established, and then Africa does it all the time. The leopard comes first, the lion comes later. The cheetah comes first, the lion comes later. Here too, the cheetah can come first, the lion or the tiger can come later. Then they become territory. वो नहीं छोड़ेंगे.
नहीं छोड़ेंगे.
2 बच्चे होने चाहिए, 2 litters, then they won't leave. And so I said all that. The lions are not coming. Why shouldn't cheetah come? Lions can come later. So he said, in the meantime, Mr. Tushar Mehta came and said, "Sir, this is not a introduction. It's not a reintroduction. This is a separate subspecies." The Chief Justice says, "I know. I'm going to order a reintroduction." Not
Reintroduction.
So he chup raha hai. After he passed the order, he said, and then he made this special committee. After that, he says, he looked at me, "Sir, are you satisfied?"
The
So
Chief Justice says.
The Chief Justice. So I said, "Your Honor, I'll die a happier man."
क्या
He-
बात है.
He
Give a
almost
big hand to
choked.
this.
He almost choked. So, and then I went away. Tushar Mehta comes up to me. And I mean, look at it. And Gujarat. And he's a Gujarati. And he said, but why, now a lion won't come there to Gujarat. So I said, after cheetahs settle down, lions can come. Why should they not come there? You know what he says in Gujarati? But aap to Gujarati છો.
गुजराती छो. हाँ.
How can you talk like that? You are a Gujarati. તો મેં કીધું તુષાર ભાઈ હું સૌથી પહેલા હિન્દુસ્તાની છું, ભારતી છું, આપ પહેલા કોણ છો? Who are you?
Who are you?
હે.
Ranjit Singh Saab comes from the Wakaner royal family, and there was also an interesting debate which we can't, we don't have time, but when the lion was changed as the national animal and tiger was made the national animal, there was an interesting debate and discussion between Ranjit Singh Saab and Karan Singh Saab. Both are great conservationists, but some time later. So thank you, sir. We are running out of time now. Thanks a lot.
Ladies
Is
and
there any
gentlemen,
question for? Yeah, there is some questions for. Yes, Murthy Saab.
hello.
The Panna man is here.
सर थैंक यू वेरी मच. मैंने आपको देखने के लिए आया था. जी. हाँ, बहुत अच्छे आप लोगों ने. आपका तो कहानी मैं कई बार सुन चुका हूँ, बट चीता वाला कहानी मेरे लिए काफ़ी रोचक है. एंड व्हेन यू सेड यू बॉट चीता टू इंडिया, आई वाज द ओनली मैन हु वाज क्लैपिंग हियर. उसके बाद
the only man?
He
I
was
was
clapping.
clapping here
Mr.
initially-
Murthy was
initially.
clapping.
Initially, you said it second time, then everybody clapped it. And when you said about Tushar, then everybody clapped. I really salute your, what should I say, nationalism.
So any
Right-
any
right
question?
per- Yes,
Murthy
yes,
sir,
sir.
any question?
I have serious
Comrade
question.
in arms.
I have a serious question with the organizers. Good that we discussed about the Wildlife Protection Act and then cheetah introduction. But why can't we have discussions here? When 15 lakh trees are being felled, that was the headlines yesterday in the Dainik Bhaskar, and 23 to 44 lakhs of trees are being felled in Panna. Let us have a discussion about this district development.
Okay,
So this is my request.
thank you.
We have spoiled the habitat of the animals and telling they are coming and attacking us. Nonsense. Jai Hind, sir.
Thank you. Any other question? We can wrap up.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Please give a huge round of applause for this absolute masterclass on nature and conservation. What a profound reminder that we share this planet and we don't own it. Listening to these experiences, we've not just heard stories, we've walked forests, tracked the trails, and felt the pulse of wild through the eyes of the legends. A massive round of applause for the father of Indian wildlife conservation, Dr. M.K. Ranjit Singh sir, and the insightful Abhilash Khandekar sir. To honor our distinguished guests, I would now like to invite Niharika Singh ji, a member of the Society for Culture and Environment, to join us on stage to present the memento. It is not merely a memento, we are privileged to share with you a genuine piece of our history. is the special BLF 2026 memento. The legendary Padma Shri Durga Bai created this artwork especially for BLF 2026. It depicts little Gorlia, a story of devotion, a tiny bird loved by Banks who is transformed by the tribal god Buradev into a beautiful maiden, bringing joy to him and his struggling family. It is a beautiful symbol how nature and humanity are intertwined, just like the conversation we heard today. Thank you, speakers, for your wisdom, and thank you, Bhopal, for being such an attentive audience. We will see you in the next session shortly.